The aroma of pot roast filled the dining room of the Pierce family home in Columbus, Ohio, mingling with the scent of fresh rolls and the underlying tension that always accompanied Sunday dinners. I methodically arranged the silverware at each place setting, careful to align the forks just so, while my younger sister Madison's voice carried from the living room. "I'm up to 20,000 followers now," she announced, waving her phone in the air as if it were Olympic gold. "The sponsorship offers are rolling in." I caught Dad's proud nod from the corner of my eye. Mom beamed at her, tucking a strand of her perfectly styled hair behind her ear. "That's wonderful, sweetie," Mom said. "Your hard work is really paying off." I set the last knife in place and slipped into my chair, invisible as always. 27 years old and still setting the table like I was 12. Still living in my childhood bedroom while Madison, at 25, commanded the spotlight with her social media career. Mom and Dad exchanged a look across the table, the kind parents share when they've rehearsed a conversation. Mom cleared her throat, her voice taking on that honeyed tone she used when she wanted something. "Alexandra, honey," she began, passing the mashed potatoes my way, "we need to discuss your room." I paused, for covering above my plate. "Madison needs it for her studio," Mom continued, smiling as if she'd just offered me a gift instead of an eviction notice. "The lighting is better than in her room, and she needs more space for her equipment." Before I could respond, Dad slammed his fist on the table, making the water glasses jump. "Either give it up or get out of this house," he snapped, all pretense of discussion evaporating. "It's time you found your own place anyway." Madison smirked from across the table, twirling a strand of blonde hair around her finger. "It's not like you need space to shuffle papers," she said with a dismissive shrug. The table fell silent. Everyone watched me, waiting for tears or protest. I cut a piece of pot roast and placed it in my mouth, chewing slowly. My expression revealed nothing as I swallowed. Inside my head, a different scene played out. My 10 by 12 bedroom upstairs was more than just a sleeping space. It was my sanctuary, my office, the command center of a life they knew nothing about. Finance books lined the shelves I'd installed myself. A modest desk held my computer, a computer whose screen frequently displayed an investment portfolio worth millions. While they'd been watching Madison perform in talent shows and school plays, I'd been working. Weekend jobs through high school, online courses in financial management during college, building my consulting business client by client, dollar by dollar. I looked down at my phone beneath the table, swiping past the apartment listings I'd been browsing all week. I'd been planning my escape for years, saving and investing while they thought I was just job hunting between temp positions. My mind flashed back to when I was 14. I could still feel the weight of the shoebox in my hands as I counted out $780 in crumpled bills. Weekend shifts at the local diner, tips included. Enough for the laptop I needed. "Alexandra," Mom had said that afternoon, standing in my doorway with that same sweet smile, "Madison needs video equipment for her school project, the one that might get her noticed by that arts program." I remember how Dad had taken the box from my hands without asking, how they'd both spoken over my protests. "Your sister needs this for her future," Dad had said firmly. I remember locking myself in the bathroom afterwards, the cold tile against my knees as I sobbed silently, promising myself I would never depend on them again. That was the day I understood my place in this family. The invisible child whose achievements would always be dismissed as that spreadsheet hobby. 13 years later, nothing had changed. Except me. I placed my napkin beside my plate and stood up, my chair sliding back without a sound. "I understand," I said, my voice steady. "I'll have an answer by next Sunday." Madison's mouth opened slightly, confusion replacing her smugness. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. This wasn't the reaction they'd expected. They wanted tears, begging, the Alexandra who would eventually give in. From the end of the table, my younger brother Eli watched me with an unexpected expression, not amusement at my predicament, but something that looked almost like concern. At 18, he was starting to see the family dynamics with clearer eyes. "Alexandra," Mom began, but I was already walking toward the stairs, my posture straight, my steps measured. "We can discuss the details later," I said over my shoulder. "Madison, make a list of what changes you want to make to the room. I'll need to know what to prepare for." Behind me, their voices resumed, already discussing paint colors and lighting setups for Madison's new studio. They had already forgotten I was leaving the room, just as they had always forgotten I was in it. In the privacy of my bedroom, I closed the door and took out my phone. I scrolled to a contact I'd added months ago, but never called. Until now. "Marjorie Klein?" A professional voice answered on the second ring. I took a breath, feeling the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. "Marjorie, this is Alexandra Pierce. I'm ready to make that move we discussed." The next morning, Dad's laptop sat unguarded on the kitchen counter, his email open like a treasure map. I glanced over my shoulder, the house empty, except for the hum of the dishwasher. My fingers hover over the keyboard. This isn't like me, this intrusion into someone else's digital space, but then again, neither was their ultimatum about my room. I clicked on a folder labeled Family Finances, and the screen fills with spreadsheets that make my stomach clench. Credit card statements stretch endlessly, a digital tapestry of debt I never knew existed. $180,000. The number blinks at me from the bottom of the screen. $180,000. My parents have racked up supporting Madison's influencer career. Line after line tells the story: camera equipment, lighting rigs, professional editing software. A $3,000 charge from last month for a weekend workshop with some social media guru in Chicago, all labeled as business expenses in Dad's meticulous notes. I dig deeper, finding an email thread between my parents discussing a second mortgage. The house I grew up in, leveraged for Madison's Instagram fantasy. A new message notification pops up. Madison to her talent agency. I shouldn't open it. I do anyway. "I'm projecting to hit 50,000 followers by next month," she wrote. I check her actual numbers on a dashboard Dad has bookmarked. 19,723, less than half what she's claiming. The front door rattles. I close the laptop and drift toward the stairs, heart hammering against my ribs. Mom walks in with grocery bags, barely glancing my way. "Alexandra?" Mom calls as I reach the landing. "Don't forget Sunday's deadline. Madison's been making plans for that room for weeks." I pause, not turning around. "My financial paperwork. We'll box it all up for you?" Mom interrupts. The false sweetness in her voice make my teeth ache. 7 days. That's all I have before they expect me to surrender my space, and with it, any proof of the life I've built. I grab my laptop and drive to Crimson Cup Coffee, my unofficial second office. The barista nods in recognition as I order my usual black coffee. No room. Settled in my corner booth, I open my own financial dashboard. The numbers glow back at me. $2.7 million in company earnings this fiscal year, 3 full-time employees, clients across 4 countries. I take a long sip of coffee, letting the bitter warmth fill me. A quiet confidence replaces the lifelong doubt that shadowed me since childhood. They never saw me. Maybe they never will. My phone buzzes with a text from Marjorie Klein, the realtor. "Found 3 properties matching your criteria. Available to view this afternoon?" I stare at the message, a plan crystallizing in my mind. This isn't just about finding somewhere to live anymore. "I won't just leave," I whispered to my screen. "I'll make a statement they can't ignore." I text Marjorie back. "Yes, looking for something specific, preferably visible from my parents' house." Her response is almost immediate. "I have just the place. Meet at 3 p.m.? I smiled for the first time in days. Perfect. 3 hours later, Marjorie's sleek car pulls up to a 2-story colonial directly across from my parents' house. The for sale sign I'd been eyeing for weeks stands in the front yard. "This is exactly what I want," I tell Marjorie as we walk up the stone path. "Something they'll see every single day." Marjorie's professional veneer cracks slightly, her eyebrow raising. "Interesting choice of words," she says, unlocking the door. "Most clients talk about what they want to see, not what they want others to see." Before I can respond, someone calls my name from the sidewalk. Chloe Baxter waves, crossing the street with a folder tucked under her arm. Her auburn hair catches the afternoon sun as she navigates around a parked car. "I brought those property listings you asked about," she says, climbing the steps to join us, "but I see Marjorie's already got you covered." Chloe has believed in me since college, when I showed her my business plan scrawled on coffee shop napkins. While everyone else saw pipe dreams, she saw potential. "Alexandra's financials have been pre-approved," Marjorie explains as we tour the house. "The sellers are motivated. We could fast-track this if you're serious." The master bedroom overlooks my parents' house. I stand at the window, imagining waking up to this view every morning, a daily reminder of what I've built and what they failed to see. "My bank manager was impressed with your statements," Marjorie continues, making notes on her tablet. "Not many 27-year-olds qualify for a mortgage this size without cosigners." My phone buzzes again, a text from Eli. "Whatever you're planning, you deserve better than this." I stare at his message, surprised. When did my little brother start noticing what was happening in our house? When did he start taking my side? "I'll take it," I tell Marjorie, tucking my phone away. "How quickly can we close?" "Wednesday, if we push." She needs her eyes. "That's incredibly fast. Are you sure?" "Absolutely," I say, already calculating the down payment. "I'll transfer the funds tonight." Later, sitting at the kitchen table while my parents and Madison discuss her brand strategy, I sign the preliminary papers Marjorie emailed over. My parents still think I'm job hunting, unaware that their invisible daughter is about to become their highly visible neighbor. The money transfers with a single click. A substantial down payment that represents years of work they never bothered to ask about. The bittersweet realization settles over me. I'm buying a home, but losing my family. Or maybe I lost them years ago, and I'm only now accepting it. Pride replaces the hollow ache. I built this success without their knowledge or support, without their belief. Maybe that makes it more mine than anything else could. As Madison laughs about her latest sponsorship prospect, a fleeting doubt crosses my mind. Is this revenge or freedom? Perhaps it's both. The morning sun filtered through my curtains as I opened my eyes to the sound of rustling in my room. Mom stood by my bookshelf, a garbage bag in one hand and several of my finance folders in the other. "What are you doing?" I asked, sitting up quickly. "Just cleaning, sweetie," she said, that honeyed tone coating her words. These old papers were gathering dust. I slid out of bed and crossed the room in 3 steps, taking the folders from her hands. "These are important documents." "Oh, Alexandra," she laughed lightly. "You and your paperwork. Madison needs this space to be pristine for her equipment." My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A notification from Madison's Instagram. A family photo from last Christmas. Her caption reading, "Making room for my dream studio. So blessed to have supportive parents. #influencer life. #dream coming true." I bit the inside of my cheek, tasting copper. 63 likes already, most from people who'd never set foot in our house. "I thought we agreed Sunday was moving day," I said, carefully returning the folders to their proper place on the shelf. Mom sighed, tying the garbage bag. "Plans change. Madison's equipment arrives Wednesday now, not Sunday." She patted my shoulder. "You're always so adaptable, honey. That's what I love about you." Adaptable. The word they used when they meant invisible. Downstairs, Dad sat at the kitchen table, coffee mug in hand, newspapers spread before him. His eyes flicked up as I entered, then back to the sports section. "Morning," I said, pouring myself coffee. Some people in this house don't understand sacrifice. Ungrateful children taking advantage. The irony burned worse than the coffee. I said nothing as I spread peanut butter on toast, calculating the hours until I could leave this house forever. That evening, relatives gathered around our dining room table for Mom's monthly family dinner. Aunt Cheryl passed the green beans while Uncle Jim described his golf game in excruciating detail. I pushed food around my plate, half listening, until Mom tapped her spoon. "We have exciting news," she announced, her smile wide and practiced. "Madison has a potential sponsorship with a major cosmetics brand. They're sending professional equipment for her videos." Aunt Cheryl clapped her hands together. "That's wonderful! Alexandra's giving up her bedroom for Madison's studio. Such a supportive sister." All eyes turned to me, expecting the dutiful daughter act. I smiled tightly and raised my water glass. Family supports family, right? Later that night, my phone lit up with a text from Marjorie. "Found it. The perfect house. 4 bedrooms, directly across from your parents. Virtual tour tomorrow?" I stared at the message, something like hope unfurling in my chest. I typed back, "Yes, first thing." The virtual tour revealed high ceilings and hardwood floors, but it was the office that stopped my breath. A spacious room with built-in bookshelves and a bay window overlooking my parents' front door. I could sit at my desk and watch them come and go while they'd never see me working. "What do you think?" Marjorie asked through the video call. "It's perfect," I whispered, unexpected tears blurring my vision. "How quickly can we close?" Marjorie's face lit up with determination. "With your financials and my connections, we can have keys in your hand Wednesday morning." "Wednesday," I repeated, thinking of Madison's equipment delivery. The timing wasn't coincidental. It was justice. The signing happened Tuesday afternoon. Papers spread across a mahogany table. My hand trembled slightly as I signed the final document, a mixture of terror and triumph coursing through me. "Alexandra," Marjorie said, as she gathered the papers, her voice unusually soft. "In 20 years of real estate, I've never seen someone your age this prepared." I blinked rapidly, unprepared for the warmth that spread through my chest at her words. Back home, I was carefully organizing client files when my bedroom door swung open without a knock. Madison strode in, measuring tape in hand, eyes already scanning my walls. "Can I help you with something?" I asked, not looking up from my desk. "Just measuring for my lighting setup. This space is barely adequate, but I'll make it work." I continued typing, my keystrokes deliberately calm. "I see. My brand is on the verge of $1 million valuation. I need this space more than you do. It's not like you're doing anything important with it." If she only knew the irony. The financial empire I'd built while she collected followers and free makeup samples. "We'll see what happens Sunday," I said, saving my document. Madison laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. "Mom and Dad already decided. You don't have a choice." I looked up then, meeting her eyes directly. A small, secretive smile curved my lips. Everyone has choices. Some just take longer to make them. Confusion flickered across her face before she rolled her eyes and left, the door banging shut behind her. That night, Chloe arrived with empty boxes after my family left for their weekly movie night. "Operation Independence is a go," she whispered, pulling packing tape from her purse. "I've got the essentials list." I hugged her tightly. "Thank you." We worked quickly, packing my most important possessions while leaving enough to maintain the illusion I was still living there. My college friends arrived an hour later with more boxes and quiet determination. "Eli texted," Chloe said, taping another box. "Your parents decided to get ice cream. He'll stall them." My brother's unexpected alliance warmed something in me that had been cold for years. Marjorie called past midnight with confirmation. "We're set for 9 a.m. closing. The movers will arrive at your parents' house at 10 while everyone's at work." Wednesday morning dawned clear and bright. I stood on the sidewalk watching Marjorie's car approach, keys dangling from her fingers as she stepped out. "Congratulations, homeowner," she said, pressing the keys into my palm. The movers arrived precisely at 10, efficient and discreet. I directed them through my childhood home, pointing out what to take and what to leave. My desk, my books, my clothes, the physical manifestations of a life kept hidden for years. By noon, I stood in my master bedroom watching the movers assemble my bed frame. The window offered a perfect view of my parents' house, the bedroom that had been mine for 27 years now visible from across the street. "Where do you want this desk, ma'am?" one of the movers asked, gesturing to my workstation. "In the office," I said, positioned to face the front window. Chloe arrived with lunch as the movers finished, her eyes wide as she explored my new home. "This is gorgeous, Alex, and huge!" We sat on the floor of my new living room, eating sandwiches amid half-unpacked boxes. "Are you doing this for revenge? Making them see what they missed?" I considered her question, watching the sunlight pattern the hardwood floors. "This isn't about revenge," I said finally. "It's about becoming visible." That evening, I arranged my important papers in a leather portfolio folder. Deed, financial statements, company information, evidence of the life I'd built while they weren't looking. Standing before my bathroom mirror, I practiced my expression, ensuring no anger or hurt showed through. Sunday's revelation needed to be delivered with calm confidence, not emotional outbursts. I selected my outfit for Sunday's appearance, a tailored navy blazer, cream silk blouse, and my grandmother's pearl earrings. Professional but familiar. The Alexandra they knew, but finally seen clearly. As the last box was unpacked, I returned briefly to my parents' house. In my stripped bedroom, I placed my childhood teddy bear against the pillow, the only personal item remaining, a silent goodbye to the girl who had lived in the shadows. Saturday night, I stood at my new bedroom window, watching lights glow across the street. Madison's car pulled up, friends spilling out laughing. Through the upstairs window, I could see them touring my empty room, Madison gesturing expansively about her plans. My phone buzzed with a text from Eli. "They think you're staying with Chloe. What are you really doing?" I smiled, typing back, "Come to coffee tomorrow. You'll want to see this." Placing my phone down, I walked through my silent house, fingertips trailing along walls that belonged entirely to me. On the entry table, I positioned the deed folder, precisely in the center. "Tomorrow," I whispered to the empty house, "they'll finally see me." Sunday morning arrives with a clarity I haven't felt in years. I adjust my blazer, charcoal gray, tailored perfectly as I cross the street toward my parents' house. The weight of the deed folder in my hand feels substantial, grounding. Through the front window, I can see them gathered around the kitchen table. My former prison, now just a stage for what comes next. I knock twice, sharp and confident. Mom answers, her smile faltering when she sees my professional attire. "Alexandra? We weren't expecting you so early." Her eyes dart to the street behind me, searching for Chloe's car. "Where did you park?" "I walked," I say simply, stepping past her into the foyer. The kitchen falls silent as I enter. Dad looks up from his newspaper, Madison from her phone. Only Eli offers a genuine "good morning." I pour myself coffee from the pot on the counter, an action I've performed thousands of times in this house. Today it feels different, a choice rather than an obligation. "I thought you'd be bringing your things," Madison says, her tone sweet but eyes calculating. "I've already picked out paint samples for the walls, thinking of a blush pink with gold accents for my backdrop wall." I settle into my usual chair, crossing my legs casually. That sounds nice. Madison launches into detailed renovation plans, describing lighting setups and equipment placement. I sip my coffee, nodding at appropriate intervals, while watching Dad's impatience build. The timing has to be perfect. "When are you moving your things?" Dad finally interrupts, folding his newspaper with a crisp snap. The room stills, all eyes on me. This is the moment I've rehearsed in my mind 100 times. "I already did," I reply, my voice steady. "Wednesday was my first day, actually." Mom's coffee cup clinks against its saucer. "Staying with Chloe isn't a real solution, Alexandra. You need to think about this rationally." Dad laughs, the sound devoid of humor. "You'll be back when you can't afford rent. The real world is expensive, especially for someone with your employment history." Madison reaches across the table, patting my hand with artificial concern. "Don't be dramatic just because you're jealous of my success. We all have our paths, even if yours is taking longer to develop." They present a united front, so confident in their assumptions. But for the first time, I notice a flicker of unease in Mom's eyes as I remain unruffled by their dismissals. "Thank you all for your concern," I say, placing the folder on the coffee table with deliberate slowness. "But I'm not renting. I bought a house." The statement hangs in air, rearranging the molecules between us. I let the silence stretch, savoring the shifting expressions across their faces. Confusion, disbelief, the first edge of alarm. "The one across the street, actually." I turn slightly in my chair, pointing through the front window at my new home. 3 stories of brick and character, directly in their line of sight. Mom's coffee cup slips from her fingers, splashing brown liquid across the white tablecloth. Dad's mouth opens and closes without sound. Madison sits frozen, her Instagram post forgotten, mid-type. "How could you afford that?" Eli asks, breaking the stunned silence. There's no judgment in his voice, only genuine amazement. I straighten my shoulders, embracing the truth I've hidden for years. I own a financial consulting business. "A what?" Dad cracks. "A financial consulting firm. We manage portfolios and investment strategies for clients across the country." I keep my tone matter-of-fact, as if discussing the weather. "We crossed $2.7 million in revenue last quarter." Years of dismissal hang in the balance as I let them process this information. Eli's eyes widen, respect dawning in his expression. Mom recovers first, her smile tight. "It's probably just a starter home with a small mortgage. That neighborhood has become quite affordable lately." I slide financial statements across the table. I paid 60% down. The rest is financed at 2.8%. Madison's phone slips from her hand, clattering onto her plate. "You've been lying about your job." Dad's face reddens as he slams his palm against the table. "No," I correct him calmly. "You've been assuming I was unsuccessful. You never actually asked what I do." The distinction lands like a physical blow. Dad's mouth snaps shut. Mom stands abruptly, grabbing her phone. "I need to call Aunt Patricia. This impulsive decision." "Go ahead," I say, sipping my coffee. "She already knows. She's coming to my housewarming party next weekend." Within an hour, the family machinery activates its defense systems. Mom calls 3 relatives, her voice growing increasingly strained as their responses prove disappointingly supportive of my brave new chapter. Madison posts a vague story about toxic family drama that garners minimal engagement compared to her usual content. Through the window, I watch Mr. Johnson from next door slow his morning walk to admire the antique writing desk being carried into my front door by professional movers. The Neighborhood Whisper Network has already activated. Alexandra Pierce, successful businesswoman, moving into the Henderson property. The doorbell rings and Chloe enters with a potted fiddle leaf fig and a bottle of champagne. "Housewarming gift for the new homeowner," she announces, ignoring the tension thickening the air. "Thank you," I say, accepting both with genuine warmth. The contrast between her authentic support and my family's calculated reactions couldn't be clearer. Eli stands, glancing between our parents and me. "Can I see your new place, Alex?" The request represents more than curiosity. It's the first crack in the family's united front. His willingness to cross the street with me carries weight beyond the physical journey. "Of course," I say, gathering my things. "Anytime." As we prepare to leave, Dad clears his throat. "We should discuss your future visits. Sunday dinners are a family tradition." I'm still family, just living across the street instead of upstairs. Mom's smile doesn't reach her eyes. "Of course you are. We're just trying to understand this sudden change." Not sudden, just finally visible. Through the window, I notice Marjorie's car pulling up to the corner market where Mom buys her weekly groceries, right on schedule. By afternoon, the entire neighborhood will know the property value of my new home and the substantial down payment I made. As I walk toward the door with Eli and Chloe, a delivery van stops in front of my house. The driver carries an elaborate arrangement of flowers to my porch, a congratulatory gift from my business partners, strategically timed and perfectly visible from my parents' front window. I turn back once before leaving, taking in the tableau of my stunned family. Madison frantically checking her phone as notifications about an expose on fake followers flood her screen. Mom and Dad exchanging worried glances. The unpaid second mortgage application sitting in Dad's email draft, suddenly feeling more precarious. Success is often built in quiet rooms, while others are performing. The door closes behind us with a gentle click, separating past from future with half an inch of polished oak. Across the street, my house, my actual home, stands waiting, windows gleaming in the morning Sunday. 2 weeks later, the doorbell chimes through my quiet home, interrupting my morning coffee ritual. Through the peephole, I spot my mother's perfectly coiffed hair and the edge of what appears to be a pie dish. I take a deep breath, straighten my shoulders, and open the door with a neutral expression. "Alexandra, sweetheart." Mom holds up a perfectly golden-crusted apple pie, steam still rising from the lattice top. "I made your favorite. We should talk." I step aside, allowing her into the entryway of my new home. Her eyes dart around, taking in the tasteful furnishings, the spacious layout, the unmistakable signs of success she never bothered to notice before. "This is quite something you've done here," she says, placing the pie on my kitchen counter. Her hands flutter to her pearl necklace, adjusting it unnecessarily. "Your father and I always believed in you, you know?" I pour her a cup of coffee without responding. The silence stretches between us. "Madison's having a hard time with sponsors," she finally says, staring into her cup rather than meeting my eyes. "Some issue with her follower count? Technical things I don't understand." "I see," I reply, keeping my voice even. "Family supports family, Alexandra." Mom reaches across the counter to touch my hand. I don't pull away, but I don't reciprocate either. "We've always been there for each other, haven't we?" Later that afternoon, Dad makes his approach. He catches me retrieving mail from my box, his timing too perfect to be coincidental. "Your mother misses you," he says without preamble. "We all do. We should put this behind us and move forward as a family." I nod politely, sorting through envelopes. "I'm open to that possibility, Dad." His relief is palpable but premature. That evening, my phone lights up with a barrage of texts from Madison. "You're destroying this family. Mom cried all afternoon. Everyone thinks you're so selfish. After everything they did for you?" I place the phone face down on my coffee table and return to reviewing client portfolios. The messages continue to arrive, each vibration less affecting than the last. The next morning, Mom calls to inform me that Aunt Patricia asked about my absence at Sunday dinner. She says, "Everyone's concerned about the family image. People are talking." Dad follows up with a voicemail suggesting my business success seems awfully sudden and questioning whether I've gotten involved with something questionable. The final salvo comes in the form of a formal dinner invitation delivered by hand to my mailbox. Elegant script on cream cardstock requests my presence at the family home tomorrow evening at 7 to reconcile our differences, it reads, and the postscript, in Mom's handwriting, after all we've done for you growing up. Alone that night, doubt creeps in during the quiet hours. Old patterns of guilt surface like well-worn paths in my mind. Perhaps I am being too harsh. Perhaps there is some middle ground where I can maintain both peace and dignity. The next morning, Chloe arrives with bagels and brutal honesty. "Remember the laptop money?" she asks, spreading cream cheese with unnecessary force. $800 you saved from diner shifts, and they took it for Madison's camera equipment. I wince at the memory. That was 13 years ago, I say, though the sting feels fresh. Patterns don't change unless people do, Chloe replies. After she leaves, I pull out the journals I've kept since childhood. Page after page documents the same cycle. My achievements minimized, my needs secondary, my resources commandeered from Madison's dreams. The realization settles into me with surprising calm. Their love was always conditional. Mine doesn't have to be. I arrive at my parents' house at precisely 7 the next evening. The table is set with the good china. Madison sulks at her place setting, while Mom fusses with flower arrangements, and Dad pours wine with too careful precision. "Alexandra!" Mom exclaims with excessive brightness. "You came!" I take my seat, my posture relaxed but dignified. The difference is immediately apparent. I'm not the daughter desperately seeking approval. I'm a successful woman who has chosen to be here on my terms. Madison attempts several barbs throughout the salad course. "Not everyone can buy their way into feeling important," she mutters. I meet her gaze steadily. "You're right. Some people have to earn it." Her fork clatters against her plate. When the main course is served, Dad clears his throat meaningfully. The moment for reconciliation has apparently arrived according to their schedule. "I needed to build my own life," I say before they can begin their prepared speeches. "You needed me to remain invisible. Those two things weren't compatible." Mom's hand freezes midway to her water glass. "Alexandra, we never—" "I'm open to a relationship," I continue calmly, "but not one based on what you can take from me." The silence that follows is profound. "What does that mean exactly?" Dad finally asks, his tone careful. I explain with the precision of someone who has prepared thoroughly how I built my business over years of work, how I paid for my education through scholarships and side jobs, how I attempted repeatedly to share my successes only to have them dismissed or ignored. That spreadsheet hobby, I quote back to them, is now worth millions. Madison's face contorts with something between rage and envy. For the first time, she sees the difference between her bot followers and my earned success. The knowledge visibly burns. Mom attempts to redirect. "Speaking of your business success, Alexandra, perhaps you could help with family finances just until Madison gets back on her feet." The trap is sprung, but not as she intended. From my purse, I remove a folder containing documentation of every instance they took from me, from the laptop savings to college fund withdrawals for Madison's headshots. Dad begins to protest, but his words die as I show him his own signature on a withdrawal slip from my college account. Madison launches into a tantrum about fairness and family loyalty that exposes her entitlement more clearly than any argument I could make. Through it all, I remain composed. The family narrative collapses around us, but I do not gloat or rage. There's no satisfaction in watching them confront reality, only the quiet relief of finally being seen. "I'm willing to have a relationship based on mutual respect," I say when the storm subsides. "That includes financial boundaries. I won't support anyone without accountability." I turn to Madison. You can apologize genuinely, and we can build something new. Or you can maintain your position, and we'll maintain our distance. My parents sit stunned, facing consequences perhaps for the first time. You gave me an ultimatum about my room, I say, rising from the table. I chose freedom. I leave without tears or anger, walking the short distance across the street to my own home. From my front porch, the family house is clearly visible, windows glowing with artificial warmth. Eli appears at his upstairs window. I raise my hand in a small wave, an offering of connections separate from our parents. He returns the gesture, his expression thoughtful. One by one, the lights in my parents' house go dark as I stand on my porch. My own home remains illuminated, warm with the light of independence. I hear through neighborhood whispers that Madison's career collapse has accelerated, her fake follower scheme exposed, sponsorships withdrawn, her influencer dreams crumbling. Meanwhile, my parents face the prospect of financial ruin, their resources depleted by years of supporting Madison's illusions. I watched the for sale sign being hammered into their lawn the following week, feeling neither victory nor remorse, only the quiet certainty that some lessons come at a higher price than others. The morning sun streamed through my kitchen window, casting golden light across the countertop. 6 months had passed since that Sunday dinner ultimatum, and what once felt like an act of defiance now simply felt like home. I cradled my coffee mug and stepped onto the front porch, breathing in the crisp autumn air. My house, not my parents' house, not my childhood bedroom, but my house had transformed from an empty statement into a true sanctuary. The living room walls, once bare, now displayed framed awards from the Columbus Business Association, including last month's Emerging Entrepreneur Honor. My consulting firm had grown to 5 employees, all working remotely, but gathering monthly in my converted dining room for strategy sessions. Across the street, the curtains remained drawn at my parents' house. The for sale sign had appeared weeks after Madison's final sponsored post announced her career transition into entry-level marketing. I took another sip of coffee, surprised by how little satisfaction I felt at their financial troubles. The revenge fantasy had burned itself out, leaving something quieter and more valuable in its place. "Morning, Alexandra," Mrs. Henderson called from her driveway next door. "Those mums on your steps are gorgeous." I waved back, still unused to being visible in this neighborhood, where I had been a shadow for 27 years. Inside, I checked my watch. 3 hours until the housewarming party. The irony wasn't lost on me that the dining table where my parents had delivered their ultimatum now stood in my home, repurposed for celebration instead of control. I'd bought it at their hastily organized estate sale, paying twice its value while Madison glared from the porch. The doorbell rang and Eli stood on my doorstep holding a potted plant. "You're early," I said, stepping aside to let him in. "Thought you might need help setting up." He set the plant down, hands in pockets. At 19, his shoulders had straightened, his voice deepened. Community college had been good for him. "Place looks amazing." "Thanks for coming," I squeezed his arm. Our relationship had been the unexpected gift in all this, the slow construction of a real sibling bond built on mutual respect rather than shared childhood wounds. "Remember when Dad asked where you saw yourself in 5 years?" Eli asked. "At that dinner?" I nodded, unpacking the catering delivery. "Where do you see yourself now?" he asked. The question landed differently this time. Before, it had been a challenge, a demand for justification. Now, it felt like genuine curiosity. Building something that matters. Not just the business, but a life where I don't need anyone's approval to know my worth. Last week, I had found my childhood journal while unpacking the final box of belongings. On the last page, I had written, The room they wanted to take became the foundation for the life I built. The words felt like a bridge between past and future, acknowledging the pain without letting it define me. By noon, my house filled with voices. Chloe arrived first, throwing her arms around me. "To building your own house, literally and figuratively," she toasted, raising her glass. Marjorie Klein came next, her realtor's portfolio tucked away, attending now as a friend. My business partners followed, bringing clients who'd become allies. The room buzzed with conversations about future projects and expansion plans. Between conversations, I slipped into my office to finalize the scholarship paperwork, a fund for business students from challenging family backgrounds. Yesterday, I'd mentored a young woman whose father had belittled her career ambitions, watching recognition dawn in her eyes when I shared my story. "Your worth isn't determined by those who can't see it," I told her. I helped Eli submit his engineering program application last week, his talent for numbers finding direction after years in Madison's shadow. Evening found me watering plants on the front porch as Madison's small U-Haul pulled up across the street. She was moving to an apartment downtown, smaller than she had planned, but better than nothing. Her parents loaded the last of their belongings into their sedan, the house emptied before the bank foreclosure. I raised my hand in a small wave as they glanced my way. Not forgiveness, exactly, but acknowledgement. They had told me to give up my room, so I built a company inside it and bought a home across the street. That night, I stood in my bedroom doorway, surveying the space that was undeniably mine. No one could take it, no one could diminish it. My business continued to grow, creating opportunities not just for me, but for others. The relationship with my parents remained distant, with boundaries firmly in place, though perhaps someday healing might be possible, if they changed. I slipped between cool sheets in the master bedroom, watching moonlight pattern the ceiling. For the first time in my life, I slept without wondering if I was enough. Have you ever had to choose between pleasing family and standing up for yourself? Alexandra learned that sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is setting boundaries. What would you have done in her situation? Share your thoughts below.